It is 9 o'clock and call the meeting in order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of additions. I'm requesting that on the consent agenda that the commissioners' warrants be pulled so we can investigate a out-of-state travel request for payments on that until we can get that figured out. Pull that from that, please. At 9:02 a.m., I'm requesting that we move from a non-timed issue to the PCMC bonding resolution 59-31-21, and our representatives from PCMC are here. At 9:03, Nick Bergman is out today, so we're going to be using a call-in, and Jared Johnson, assistant engineer, is here to take his place and help fill in the blanks on that. And the only other thing is at the bottom, the PCMC People's Bank bonding resolution. You can scratch that. We're moving it up to 9:02. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, moving second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda, minutes from the 28th, auditors, warrants, hospital warrants, and treasurer's report.
Move to approve.
And I will second.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And PCMC bonding resolution. Good morning.
Good morning. You have a resolution before you that was drafted by our bond counsel related to the refinancing of certain PCMC debt, and we are asking for your approval of that resolution today. The final closing of the refinancing is somewhat contingent on when the USDA makes a official ruling on parity of the USDA debt and the new debt. And as soon as we receive that, then we would schedule the closing, which we are hopefully anticipating will be sometime in November.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay,
Do we have a copy of that resolution in our package?
Yes, you do.
we do. It's toward the back.
Towards the back, it's just a single page. I'm sorry, I haven't been able to
It's
find it.
a
Oh, there, I found it.
3-page, I guess.
It's a two-pager.
Yeah.
Found it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Under section 1D on page 2, on the fourth line, I think operated should just be operate. Just a minor typo. But are there any questions or comments regarding this? We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Would you like to take a copy with you? Sign?
Yeah, that, we can take the copy and that or.
I don't think I got a copy.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, then we'll move on to Jared, and Nick is going to be by phone, or?
Yeah, I'll give him a call quick here.
Hello, this is Nick.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, Jared's just going to sit down, so I think we're ready to go.
All right. Well, thanks for accommodating my situation on such short notice. Yeah, it's a good day. So first off to me, would be some project updates. The first update I have is for the 2021 box culvert with any construction. The net construction is substantially complete, and those are the ones west of Hollis. Next update I have is the 2022 box culvert. First contract, and that was awarded on September 28th, along with the next project down, and those are the 2021 bridges with crane construction. Next update I have is the next page, and that is the 2020 gravel crushing, and that was awarded 14th. And lastly, last page there, the 2022 seal overlay. We are in early planning stages on those projects, so we're getting started on. Next would be a request to approve some right-of-way payments. Nothing special about these; they're pretty straightforward. You see the top one there; it's a little bit, maybe a little bit higher than what you're used to seeing, but for 460. But that one, the right-of-way we were starting out with was 33 feet instead of like 50 or something a little wider, so it takes a little bit more area for that one. Otherwise, these are all straightforward.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the right-of-way payments totaling $880 for those three payments.
I will second.
I think they total 900.
900, excuse me.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Next up, I have a request to purchase some chemicals for spraying. This is our typical chemical purchase for our just our routine maintenance spraying. You'll see there's only one quote here. That's because Nutrien was awarded the state contract. So we're just purchasing the state contract here. So the competitive bidding's been done already.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. Any discussion?
Is this for next year's spraying, or is this for the spraying we've done this year?
Next year.
Next year's spraying, okay.
Actually, we put a little bit of it to finish up this year. So it'll be a little bit this year, but mainly next year.
Okay, any other questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next up would be amending the prioritized bridge replacement list. This is a resolution we have to have in order for the state to approve the plans that we submit to them. And the point of it is just make sure the board is on board with what we're doing. So this is the same resolution you've seen. You see, I don't know. I think we update it a couple times per year.
Yeah, Nick, on the resolution of, it would be the fourth paragraph down, therefore is misspelled.
Okay, what about the fourth paragraph?
Therefore, the second word in it is misspelled.
Oh, okay. Yep, you're right. I see that.
I wouldn't want that to stop the state from approving this.
Yeah, so we can get that typo fixed.
I've got an original, Nick. I can fix that and get it signed.
Perfect,
I can change that. Not a problem.
perfect. That'd be great.
Did you adjust any priorities from our last replacement list, or is this pretty similar to what we looked at before?
The title priority might be a little misleading. It just, they don't really look at the order. They just want to see a resolution from the board approving the replacement of a bridge, a specific bridge. The order doesn't matter, resolution.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I'll go ahead and move
Yep.
then that we approve the resolution 593221.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next up, I need approval for the bond agreement and a resolution for those bridges by island. This is the typical agreement that we do every time we get bonding money. The state requires it before we get any funds. Jared should have I think it's like a 17-page agreement. You should have a hard copy there with the sign here, sticky notes on it. And then I think the resolution packet. Nothing new to this, just like the other ones we've done, but the state has to have it before they release funds to us.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Okay.
I will second.
Any discussion? It's a great job on lining this up, Nick, or whoever was responsible, because it's quite a bit of the cost of a $2 million project.
Yeah. Jared and I put a lot of work into getting that going, and it worked out pretty good. So.
Well, thank you to both of you for that.
Yeah. Yep. So then, next item I have here.
We better vote to approve this first.
Oh, sorry.
Any other discussion, or not? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, go ahead, Nick.
Next up, if you remember, I've talked a couple of times about a county highway designation swap. I think we're ready to move forward with this. We've been working with the state, multiple people at the state, to make sure we're getting this lined up right. And it sounds like they're good to go with it. All the roads on your attached map, with the exception of Edgewood, they're already under county jurisdiction. So we're just looking at swapping some designate from like a county road to a county state aid highway. And the point of doing that is we will generate more money from the state. We'll get a bigger piece of the pie out of the gas tax. So some of these roads, or two of these roads, the ones we're looking at removing designation on, that County Road 7 and 14. We've used state aid money on these in the past, and it hasn't depreciated out yet. So there's a payback on that, they call it. We'd have to write the state a check for about $100,000. But doing this swap, we would be putting the state aid designation on roads that have a higher cost to maintain. And these would be blacktop roads, for example, in Island and one in Trotsky, one in Holland, one in Ruthven. So we would just more doing this swap. We would have to essentially write the state a check for about $100,000, and we would start generating about $25,000 a year more. And it would open us up to the possibility of getting some grant funds for the one through Island. I don't know if that would happen or not. I'm pretty optimistic about that, but so that's another bonus too. So on to the one in Edgerton we'd like to add. The city asked us to take that over a number of years ago. Dave Halbersma was on board with this. I'm not sure if he took it to the full board or just the road and bridge committee, or if he just did it himself. I'm not exactly sure how far that got. I wasn't part of it, but he wanted to do it. And then when he went to look up our bank miles, we only had 0.49 bank miles, and we needed 0.50 to get that done back then. So it didn't happen. But with these other swaps we're proposing, we would have the miles to take that over. It's a big road. It would connect our County Road 17 down to our County Road 1. It'd be a straight shot. Goes by a school, by Vanderstoop's Furniture, and to an elevator. You know, it makes sense that it would be a county road. So we do have the miles now, and the city's asking again that we include that. So I would like to include that with this swap.
Yeah, this whole thing seems to be a really good deal for us to bring in some more money. I guess I'd move for approval of the resolution and look for a second.
I'll support that.
Okay.
Yeah, we need two resolutions. One to revoke state aid designation on those two roads highlighted in red, and then another to establish designation on the other roads, but I believe that's included in your packet.
Do you need a separate motion on each? Or can,
Which one did you move, Luke?
establishing the state aid highways?
I would like to second that one.
Okay.
Do we need to revoke first, or?
Yeah, actually,
Do the revocation first?
Yeah,
I think we need to do the revocation first and then
Okay.
establish.
I'll move for approval on the revocation of the county state aid highways.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the revocation then. Any discussion?
So it's,
Bad guys, huh?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have a motion and a second. And establishing one. Any discussion?
so I think it's a win for all the small towns in our county right now.
It is.
Use state aid money, like Nick mentioned on the other roads that were taken off, so it's a good use to generate some more money from the state.
Yep, and having that one little road on the west side of the school in time might be a bonus there, because
Yep.
at some point, they're gonna have to figure out a way to get out of there a different way. Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Perfect, thank you. My last item then would be a maintenance update for the last month. We've been freshening up some stop bars around the county, working on some ditch cleaning, trimming some trees, ready for snow, and then working on shouldering on County Roads 18 and 9. So that's pretty much it. That's a short version of our updates for the month. Anybody have any questions for me? Otherwise, that's all I had for today.
Mr. Chairman, I had a couple phone calls. One of them was about the metal bridge and the gravel pit. Have we disposed of that yet?
Nope, we still have that. That's the one we talked about potentially donating or whatever to the city trail around the monument. I haven't heard for sure if they want to do that or not, but one person I talked to sounded like they didn't want that. So I'll confirm with them, but I think we'd be ready to put that up for sale.
I have a name and number of a place to donate it. The only problem is it's in Brookings area. It's a teen challenge. They've built a pond and now they're looking for a bridge that would span it. It's a nonprofit. Kurt Huskin is the name. And do you want his phone number too?
Yeah, can you email me his contact info?
507-227-4271.
Okay.
He's a former resident of Chandler, and he lives in Sioux Falls now, and he's semi-retired, and he is involved in a lot of charity-type stuff. So he heard by the grapevine somewhere, and he called me, so.
Yep, I will see what he has to say.
see if we can get a little more details on what the nonprofit is, I guess.
Nick, this is Dan. I wasn't aware that that trail group didn't want it. I thought we'd already committed to give it to them, so I don't want to overextend ourselves here if we've already committed to another group. So could you follow up to make sure that that's the case there? I wasn't aware that they weren't interested. I thought they were very interested in that for the trail out by the monument.
Well, yeah, that was one person. I'll confirm with them, and then this other person that Dallas just gave me, I would just check with them to confirm interest, and I would, I'd bring it back to the board before we did anything officially with it.
Thanks, Nick. I have one other thing. I had a phone call about the repairs south of Snyder on the Snyder Tower. The double culvert is sagging very badly, and it's a bad dip. They said trucks are going down to 20 miles an hour to get over it. And they said between the two culverts settled, and that one seems to have tar over it. The rest of them are gravel that are doing well, but the one that's got tar on it is got a pretty big dip. So if you could have somebody look into that, please.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Nick? Thank you, Nick.
Yep, thank you guys. Thanks for accommodating me, and then have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah.
That was easy, right?
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Matt, have a good day.
You too.
Jared, I'll get these back to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
And we can move on to Beth from Southwest Health and Human Services.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think it's been 2 years.
Yes.
Does that seem possible? I mean, holy cats. So I have Nancy Walker with me. Many of you know Nancy. Nancy is the deputy director. We're going to give you a couple handouts.
Thank you.
If you have trouble reading or sleeping at night, this might help your insomnia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, a couple of them.
Yep. Well, it's been 2 years.
Oh.
So
Hello.
there's two-
Thank you.
So there's 2 annual reports, and the third one will be coming out.
Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you?
How's the little one? Not so little anymore, probably, right?
Growing like weeds, so.
I know, gosh darn.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Beth. Hi, Beth. Good to see you. I'm well.
Good.
Thank you.
You want one too?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. One now.
Don't want to take them home.
Heat the house.
Thank you for having Nancy and I here today. I've been with the agency for 4 years, and
Do you have extra copies of that for the
I do.
media?
Oh, yep, absolutely. Kyle, you want one back here? Sorry. Yep, there you go. Thank you for the reminder.
You bet.
So it's been 4 years since I came on board, and in those 4 years then, you know that one of the concerns that we had when I came on board was that we were not very fiscally healthy. And we've been working very, very hard for the past 4 years to become more fiscally healthy. And so Sarah Kirshner and I started doing this, presentation to you to provide you updates with everything that was going on with Southwest Health and Human Services. You probably have heard that Sarah has left the agency. She got an offer that gave her the sun, the moon, and the stars, and she couldn't turn it down. So while we are very sad to see her go, I'm very happy for her that she has this opportunity. I will say that Sarah was very diligent in really keeping us focused on becoming fiscally healthy. And I'm actually very happy to report that next year, when probably won't be Nancy, when I come before you, is that we won't have an audit exception. We will not have dipped below zero. That's always been our concern, is we can't make our bills, we can't pay our bills twice during the year, May and October, right before we get our levy money from our counties. And so it's always been an audit exception for us. The other thing that's been concerning for us and for you as commissioners is the fact that we don't have 6 months worth of reserve. I'm pleased to announce that we are at 2.5 months of reserve, which again, you don't turn the Titanic overnight. You don't need an elephant in all in one sitting, but it has been a slow process for us. I will tell you that the board this year has asked Nancy and I to provide some information related to ancillary benefits that are provided to staff in an attempt again to look at efficiencies and effectiveness. And so Nancy's gathering some information and we'll be able to provide that information to the board after the November board meeting. But the good news is that we're looking better. We're headed in the right direction. It has not been an easy path. I know that some of you who sit with some of our community partners know that this isn't, financial well-being isn't unusual for people, for organizations. The pandemic really kind of threw a wrench into everything. And so you add, everything that's occurring, statewide, nationally. It's been a tough 2 years. On this first page that Nancy handed out to you with the graphs, we always like to provide that. I tend to be a very visual person. I learn visually. And so what we have in front of you then is we have the Human Services and the Public Health levy funding along with the total levy funding. And Sarah always went back a few years, so we go back to 2017, and it's all broken out for us related to all of our counties. And so that information there is there for you. You can see that your levy percentage in 2017 was 4.44%, and in 2021 we're asking for your levy percent to be 4.90. Of course, we use our Seeger report. We use many different reports as we look at how we ask for our funding, taxing capacity, population, all of those kind of things. One of the nice things about Southwest Health and Human Services is we don't delineate, who's spending more money on out-of-home placement or adult mental health or SUD. So, as an organization, we gather all of that information together and we pay for it, as one lump sum. The actual budgets there then are for you to take a look at, and then on page 2, Sarah did this before she left, and I'm very thankful that she did, is that she then took a look at our levy funding, and there you go. We look at the net tax capacity. Our Seeger report, which is a report that comes from Human Services, and then, of course, then she looks at the past 3 years, the Seeger data, and then the levy funding at the end there for you. Then the 2% increase would be $28,499 for a total levy payable to Southwest Health and Human Services of $1.424928. Sarah then further broke things down into income maintenance. That's IM is 600, is income maintenance is 30%. 4D is our child support at 4%, and then social services at 700. That's our Seeger numbers. That's 66%. So it kind of gives you a breakdown then of how we're looking at those Seeger reports and the levy funding that we request from you. She also then has information in there related to public health funding. Public health funding, we did not ask for an increase per capita. That looks a little bit different than our social services levy request. Public health funding is looked at per capita, and this year we are looking at not asking for any change in our levy funding for you. If you look at our total cash and investment balance by month, these are all of our funds together, and so you can see again, we ebb and flow. It's not something that we should be surprised that we see. One of the things I will say is that we thought during the period of time of the pandemic that we might have less revenue coming in because, staff had been out teleworking. We're not seeing people face to face, but Human Services really did do some nice work in terms of providing waivers to us where staff did not have to go out What they did is they did their monthly contacts via Zoom or phone, and then we were reimbursed for that. So Human Services really did a nice job. Again, we want to make sure that people are receiving the services and the resources and the programming that they need. And so we were a little surprised by that. We thought, of course, that we would see less revenue. We thought we would see more expenses. We thought we would see more people coming in for mental health, for SNAP benefits, for cash, for out-of-home placement, and we really didn't see that bump. Now, I'm not going to say that the unintended consequence of the pandemic is we're not going to see that. We're thinking we're going to see it within 6 months. We're thinking it's going to be years before we see that, before we see the total impact of what that pandemic looked like. You know, one of the things we talked about was the fact that out-of-home placement, which is, you know, our largest cost. We know that we pay a lot of money in out-of-home placements. You know, we didn't see the referrals coming from schools because kids weren't in school. We didn't see referrals coming from the clinics, where we see a lot of referrals coming from doctors, nurses, you know, clinic personnel. We did not see that, of course, because people weren't going to the clinic, they weren't going to the hospital. So we knew that there was a lot of smoke out there, we just didn't know where the fires were. And I would say that we still don't know where those fires are until we kind of get back to what our new normal is, or post-pandemic, or endemic, or whatever we want to call this new phase that we're going to go into. We think that we're going to see some of those unintended consequences. Of course, you know that we saw increased enhanced SNAP benefits, we saw enhanced unemployment benefits, we saw a moratorium on rent and utilities. So we don't think that we've seen all of that yet. And so we believe that 2022, 23, 24, we're probably going to see some of those unintended consequences of the pandemic. So, Dan.
With those unintended consequences, and you talked about the adjustments that have been made the last year and a half, 2 years, what's your inclination as far as what we're going to see as permanent changes moving forward? Will we see more of the Zoom type contact for?
Well, DHS is still not back in the office.
Yes,
and they're not going out, and they're not, I mean, so they're telling us we need to go out and see people, but I find it ironic that DHS is still at home working, but they've told us to come back to work. I think you're going to see work look different. I think all of you sit on different boards. The labor force looks different. It looks way, way different right now. We, not unlike a lot of our community partners, are struggling, trying to find public health nurses. We can't compete. And the labor force now looks different than when I entered the labor force. You know, you went to your job 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and now that's not what this generation is looking at. They like that remote work. They like that life-work balance. And so it's looking a little bit different. And so as we're having conversations about how we recruit and what we have as ancillary benefits, population now that's coming into the workforce, it looks way, way different. And so how do we adapt to that? How do we adapt to these wage wars that we're seeing? Gosh darn, you can get a sign-on bonus, you know, of up to $10,000 for some different businesses,
Right.
and they're hopping. You know, they work and get their bonus, and then they hop to the next place. And so we can't compete with that. We know that. So what do we do to enhance people to come and work for Southwest Health and Human Services and then stay with us? So I think it's going to look different. I think, of course, we've known for 35 years that the baby boomers were going to retire. We were going to have conversations about that, and we haven't had them. And so now here we are. I think you see those baby boomers who can retire are retiring, and we haven't had enough babies over the past many, many years to, you know, fill that void. And so we do have a very small labor pool, and so we're all competing for that labor pool. So I think how we do our work differently. Maybe we won't be going out, Dan. I don't know. I do think that best practice, especially in a forward-facing, public-facing entity like social services, public health, you have to have staff. You have to have a place that people can come. We don't know what brings people to our doors, why they walk through our doors. That's not for us to determine. But I don't know if you always get the best snapshot of what's going on in somebody's life if you don't see them personally. I mean, I would miss, 2 years we didn't see you guys. I mean, that's a lot of time for me. You know, but again, I think that I've got to be cognizant of the fact that there is a different labor force out there. But I don't think that we can forget that our mission is public facing. We need to be there for people to come to. We have to have a place for people who are in crisis, who are looking for programming, services, resources. We have to be available to people. And so I don't think that we would ever see, Dan, that social services would not have a physical presence in any of our communities. I mean, that's what I would say. You know, maybe once a quarter you can do a Zoom meeting, but I don't think you get a good feel for people that are institutionalized if you're not up there seeing them. You know, think of what you miss in Zoom meetings, you know, the body language, virtual rolling of eyes. I mean, you know, all those kind of things that you would miss. If you don't see people, and kids that are in placement, you should see kids in placement. Maybe not every month, but certainly it should be our best practice. So I don't know, Dan. I think that those are things that, stay tuned for that. I don't know what it'll look like. You know, I never thought that a pandemic, when I said to my husband, I think the pandemic will be over in July, I didn't put a year on that. And so who knew that it would be, you know, this long? So I do think that, you know, we were very efficient. I think that we were allowed to bill for those times when we weren't seeing people in person, that we were seeing them via Zoom or on the phone. That was very fortunate for us. I think also, you know, the CARES dollars carried us. I think that we would have been really ill-prepared to pay some of our bills if we wouldn't have had those CARES dollars available. We were very lucky to be nimble enough to pivot quickly, to get staff out, to keep them safe. Those kind of things, to provide essential services to those families that didn't have any other means of getting their needs met. So I don't know, Dan, that's, if you could tell me what it's gonna look like in 5 years, I'd be very, very happy. But
More of a rhetorical question. 'Cause
right. You and I
ever-changing.
have those conversations, so I would say that in 5 years, if I'm gonna use, if I'm gonna look into the future, is that we will have at least 6 months of reserves available, and that we will not have that audit exception. Continually, the executive team does look at what we're doing, how we're doing our work. Again, it's not something that's a one and done. You know, so we're constantly looking for ways that we can find more funding, that we can ensure that we are billing everything that we can bill, and how are we efficient. You know, we went to centralized printing. People don't have printers in their offices. While you don't think that that's a big deal, it is a big ongoing cost if everybody would have a printer in their office. And the added bonus is people have to get up and walk to the printer, which is good for wellness. So it's a good thing. So all in all,
Beth, one question.
Yes, go ahead, Luke.
I'm just curious, I think you're right in that you probably haven't seen the surge yet because there was enough stimulus money and whatever
Right.
assistance from the feds directly. But I'm concerned about when the rent moratorium ends, because I think there's a lot of people out there that frankly have not been staying current with their rent and utilities, assuming there's going to be something to cover it. And I think for a lot of people, they're not going to qualify because, you know, maybe you weren't working in the first place, so you didn't lose a job because of the pandemic.
Right.
You just stopped paying your landlord because
Correct.
you knew you couldn't get kicked out.
Right.
And how many of those people then are all of a sudden going to find out, oh, I'm homeless now what? And
Right.
they're going to come to you, and then what?
And we don't have any money. Because,
Right.
you know, the thing is, Luke, I think that's a really good point, is I generally don't read the flyers that come like in MMU, you know, Marshall Municipal Utilities. You know, I just kind of toss them. But for whatever reason, this fall, there's been 2 that have come in and says, if you can't pay your utilities, call Southwest Health and Human Services because they can help you. And we can't. I mean, I think that there's that misinformation that we have money, and we have money for some. But if you just chose not to pay your utilities, we don't have that kind of money.
Right.
We had somebody come in with a $7,500 utility bill and said, "Will you pay it?" And I was like, "No, we don't have that kind of. You don't meet the qualifications for the monies that we have that would assist you." So, you know, our parameters are very, very stringent, and I think there's a misinformation out there, Luke.
And I think that's true even for fuel assistance
Oh,
through
absolutely.
SMOC or whoever else. Or,
Right, right.
where they wouldn't qualify for that either for the same reason. I mean, just because you chose not to pay when you were getting ongoing assistance
Right.
doesn't now make you get a bonus for,
Not paying.
to cover it.
Right, you know, I think we are very concerned, at least, you know, in terms of child welfare, you know, if families have not paid their utilities, $7,500 is a lot of money in unpaid utilities, I think.
I think so.
You know, you don't pay your rent. I mean, if you have $1,000 a month in rent, you don't pay it for 20 months, and you have to come up with $20,000. $20,000 in savings is, you know, that's a big chunk of money for folks, and so we worry then where our kiddo's going to land if you don't have a place.
Well, and the other thing is just to find a new place. I mean, obviously rents are going up significantly because
Right.
of wages going up and everything. And a lot of those, what we think of as the cheaper rentals are
They're
not
not
so
there.
cheap anymore. Yeah.
You're right, absolutely. And so I think that's an unintended consequence of the pandemic, and I think those are things that, as decisions were made, I don't think they thought about those potential unintended consequences. And I do think that we are going to see that. We don't know, if people are using, because we're not, people are not out and about. I mean, if people are, I'm sure I did hear, that our municipal liquor stores, that
Sales are up.
sales were up. Well, people were at home, and so we don't know what's going on in homes. And
Which
I
also
think
means that your spousal abuse and
Your
child
domestic
abuse
abuse,
cases are probably
absolutely.
way up, but unreported because nobody went to
Unreported.
school.
Right. Right. What did you say, Steve?
Drug use as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our
And
law
so
enforcement
we're,
has been extremely busy with the meth
Sure.
problems around here, and it's just never ending.
and so I think those are unintended consequences of where we don't see people out and about, and certainly we're not seeing those referrals come from our number 1 and number 2 referral sources. So we're concerned about that.
Right.
We're concerned about SUD, putting people through treatment, what will that look like? So I think that those are the unintended consequences of the pandemic that we're very, very concerned about. I think we did a good job of trying to stay on top of things during the pandemic, but again,
So do you have any idea, like, for if people would be in that situation where they just didn't pay their rent or utilities for whatever period of time because they thought they would somehow be covered, what would happen to all those people? And, I mean, that number could be
it
significant.
could be significant. I hear on the radio when I'm driving to work, that UCAP has got some dollars, but I mean, I think that there's criteria that goes along with that. I don't think it's just, Beth Williams can walk in and she can, get her rent paid for because she didn't pay it. I mean, I think that there are certain criteria.
Right.
I don't know if they pay half or do they pay 3/4. I don't know. I think those are things, again, that I don't know, the stimulus money, those kind of things where people then weren't using it for the rent or.
Right.
I think that we're going to see, I think it's going to be years, Luke, before we see the full impact of the pandemic. And if it doesn't end soon, if it doesn't at some point become an endemic like the flu, what does it look like if we live in a pandemic all the time?
Right.
I don't know. So I think we're a little concerned about those kind of things. The one thing I would, to just kind of talk about fiscal, just very briefly, because I do want to talk about a couple other things, is that we have seen our total allocations from human services. This isn't a surprise for you, to continue to decrease. Not significantly, but they nibble away at it, and every year it's a little bit less. I will say for public health, LPHA grant, which in 2003, I believe, was cut by 30%. They did receive that 30% back this year, so it took them 18 years to go back to the level of 2003. They didn't get an increase. They went back to
18
that
years in the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so that takes a long time once, the state cuts your allocations and says you're going to get it back. It took 18 years for public health to go back to that 2003 level of
And
allocation.
in inflation-adjusted dollars, it'd be
Yes.
less still.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
That was my point,
Yeah,
too, not
absolutely.
adjusted for
The
inflation.
other thing you've probably heard, and you would be correct in hearing this, is there's a lot of money right now for public health. Public health has been on the forefront nationally, so there's been a lot of COVID dollars that have been given to them for infrastructure, for labor force, for many, many different things. Again, we don't know if we'll be able to spend those dollars, but there's some dollars, and so we're looking at our infrastructure of public health. One of the other things, and Dan, you can speak to this maybe, is the board gave us a directive, I believe in September, or August or September, to start looking at mandated versus non-mandated services. Again, it's one of those things that we think we provide great quality services. We provide great early intervention, prevention programming. But at the end of the day, when our allocations continue to decrease, when your rate of reimbursement decreases, you have to start at some point. I can't keep coming to the say, hey, can I have 14%? That would be great, and you would say, No, I don't think so. So, because you can't do that, I mean, to your residents. So, we have to look again, not that we want to say that some services have higher priority, but they do. According to the state, according to the feds, there are things that have higher priority. And so, while we don't want to go to that, we also don't want to lay staff off. It's pretty draconian to lay off staff. I mean, that's the easy way to get to, to balance a budget. But again, that's not always the best way to get there. Dan?
And when we talk about that difference between mandated and non-mandated, we don't want people to think that this is just frivolous spending on non-mandated, because we know that there is benefit to those. In fact, even financial benefit sometimes
Right.
to doing a non-mandated, because it helps with the overall picture.
Right.
And we're not the only agency facing this. This is across the board, and it's really sad that you have to start making decisions of how effective your program is on what you can pay for and what you can't pay for.
Right. So what we'll look at is we'll look at a return on investment, an ROI, but we'll also look at a return on value. I mean, it's a return on investment, so we have to look at what we can do. A couple other things, agency vehicles, we have 35 fleet vehicles. We ordered some fleet vehicles in February of this year. We still don't have them. We thought we were going to get them in September, but now it's maybe going to be November. So, we don't know when we had 6 2021 Ford EcoSports coming, and we don't know when they're going to be coming. We are ordering 6 Chevy Malibus for 2022. They were going to be ordered last month, hoping that they would arrive in the spring of 2022, but I think all of you know that if you are out looking for a vehicle right now, they're hard to find.
Yeah,
So-
don't feel bad. I know of people privately that have been told 2023 is the soonest you'll get your new vehicle, if then.
Isn't that amazing? I mean,
Well, you can
that's.
have the vehicle, it just won't go.
Right, because it won't have the computer chip
won't have a
from
chip.
China or whatever that.
And I didn't realize how many computer chips it takes to run a car. It's like 463 or something. It's just it's just unbelievable. So.
None of which are made here.
No, you're right. That's right. So the other highlights that we had in IT is we did get caught up on our computer replacements. You know that for a period of time we just kicked that can down the road and said we're not replacing computers, but at certain points you have to replace those. We did utilize our CARES funding for some Zoom and video monitors for staff. As you well know, Zoom kind of has become the new norm. And so we got monitors for everyone that has the cameras, above the monitors so that you don't look like you're not engaged in the meeting. So we did that. IT also assisted with setting up a hotline, and we did have some other IT needs related to our vaccine clinics. And then we replaced our phone system, that had been on the back burner for a period of time, and we did get that taken care of, and we have a new fax by email system. So those are a couple things that took place. The other things that I just wanted to share briefly with you is that you do have the 2018 and the 2019 annual report. If you recall, the 2017 annual report was the first one that we put together during my tenure. That was very, very academic. It was a big document that gave you the baseline of the work that we do. 2018 really is a continuation of that, and so that's a little more academic. But the 2019 annual report really is more of a case study. I've been reading some case studies out of Berkeley University, and we came up with the idea that maybe it would be good for people to hear the different stories of how folks are doing their work and the stuff that we see. And maybe I've got it backwards. Maybe 2018 is the, 2018 is case study, 2019 goes back to academic, so I apologize if it's just reversed. This year what we're going to do is we're working on the 2020, and we didn't want to focus too much on the pandemic because there were a lot of good things that happened during the pandemic, I mean outside of the pandemic. So we're trying to put together that information so that you will have that. Regional projects that we have going right now is we have a potential crisis center in Worthington that we're working with Region 18, the Southwest 18. So we're hoping that we can find a provider that will provide those services, but we're having a hard time finding a provider that wants to take on a crisis center at this point in time. Number one, you know that for mental health, the reimbursement rate is not sustainable. And so I don't know why anybody would jump into that. And so then again, the other thing that probably you're all well aware of is there's some concerns about the Southwest Mental Health Center. I certainly can feel for Luke down there going through what he's going through. So you're well aware of that. We've been having every other week meetings with him to ensure that we're providing support to him, providing him with some resources that may help him out during this period of time. So I'm going to let Nancy talk about, we will be going through procurement again for our managed care organizations. Once every 5 years, you have to go through procurement. And you're well aware that we are a Prime West county-based purchasing entity here. And so we're kind of navigating those waters. It's feeling a little wonky with DHS right now, so I'm not sure. AMC, Health and Human Services Policy Committee met last month up in Alexandria. I think mental health is going to be a big push again, concerns about mental health again, those unintended consequences of the pandemic, and the labor force. And I think we kick that as a platform identification to general government because we know that it's just bigger than Health and Human Services. It's impacting our communities across all different populations. So Nancy is going to talk a little bit about a couple things that we've done as an agency, and then we have time for question and answer. And I see that Jason Kloss is coming, so you're...
Yep.
There he is. So you're going to be Southwest Health and Human Services out. So there you go. So Nancy.
Okay, well, the two items I'm just going to talk about briefly. One of my major roles is human resources, and that's why I know Kathy so well as well. We made a decision, and I will be honest, over the last 4 to 5 years, I had been questioned many times, are you going to stay with the Minnesota Merit System? The Minnesota Merit System is a DHS department that kind of acts as a clearinghouse, screens applicants to make sure they meet the minimum qualifications for positions, and then counties that are members of the Minnesota Merit System receive registers of candidates. So that's kind of how we get our candidate pools. And I was actually on their board and also the chairperson of their executive committee for a couple of years. Many counties started pulling out of the Minnesota Merit System simply because it is a shared cost system, and as counties were exiting, then the costs for the counties that remained, of course, increased. And I always said, when it gets to be about the same cost as an equivalent to a position, we're going to have to really think about it. Well, that kind of something that was acting in parallel during that time was the agency's efforts regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was evident that you don't get that customization to really work with the candidates from your local area. It was very metro-centric with Minnesota Merit System. I would tell you that at the time that we finally made the decision to pull out, we were pushing up to our costs being $40,000 a year. To be honest, $40,000 a year just to send me registers of candidates when we have the capacity in-house to be able to take those applications, screen those applications, basically set up our own civil service, it was getting to be too costly. When I first took over human resources for the prior organization, Lincoln Line Marine Human Services, I think our costs were around $15,000 to $17,000 a year. So that's how much it has inflated over time. So we petitioned to be released from the Minnesota Merit System. It actually was a pretty painless process. And we had to pass a few policies, that type of thing, because we're a joint powers versus a county. And so we were released the beginning of this year, of 2021. And another data item that we have been documenting was the number of days to fill our positions. So prior to leaving Merit System, we were running at 60 days plus to fill a position. And anytime you have a vacancy, someone's got to do that work. So that falls on the shoulders of supervisors and the other staff that are in the unit. 60 days is a long time. Since the first of the year, now we've been able to get those days down to about 30 on average. That's a huge improvement. Now, just like everybody else, we have vacancies. Right now, I think I have 10 or 11 openings. It's kind of been pretty consistent at that level, partly because of our own doing. We have a philosophy of allowing people to move to different positions within the agency. So you have a vacancy and then someone says, hey, I'm interested, I'm gonna apply for that job. We try to promote from within whenever possible as well. So then what happens is you fill that position, and by the way, you just created another one. A lot of difficulties in trying to hire public health nurses. I have a position, unfortunately, that is based out of Pipestone that's been open since a year ago, October. It's frustrating. I just trying to find, and you want to hire good candidates as well. So we're really struggling to hire public health nurses. Social workers, we've been doing okay. I would say a majority of them are brand new hires right out of college. We have a really good relationship with SMSU. So we're kind of they got kind of a feeder program for us.
For the nurses, are you able to offer competitive pay with what they would get in other locations?
We can't compete with.
Because, I mean, obviously, you may not get any then if
Right.
you're not offering
Right.
competitive pay. So who makes the decision on that as far as what you can offer?
Well, now that we're out of merit system, we no longer use their structure. We have had discussions, and Les and Dan are both on my board. We have had discussions about having a comp study or a pay study. But I have to have dollars. I have to have money to be, I can do the study, but if I don't have the dollars to implement the study, that's not a good thing either. It just causes more resentment.
I know from having studies like that done at our own hospital, studies done as recently as just months ago are obsolete because the
Right.
market is changing so
Correct.
fast.
It is.
The other thing I think, Luke, is, we're Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. So, the nurses want to work, hey, can I work 3/12s and I'm done?
Right.
Or can I work part-time? Or, so we don't, so I think that we can't meet those needs either. I have a daughter-in-law who, she works, 3/12s, gets paid for 40 and she's good to go. We don't have that luxury,
Right.
So I think that those are things that, again, it's that workforce that we just, how do you compete with that?
But I mean, you may have to change that model
You're right.
going forward, or you will never fill those positions.
That's a good point, and so I think those are things that for boomers like me, it's out of our comfort zone to be
Right.
thinking about those kind of things. But we're going to have to go down that road. We are. The other thing that Nancy has indicated is we get those baby social workers from SMSU, but we also do internships with SMSU for social workers and for nurses. So so that's a good thing. We're hoping then that word of mouth is it's a great place to work. Why don't you come and work for us?
The
We
other
talked about the financial challenges we had recently, also touch on the review process that we've implemented for replacing people as well, too.
Oh, yes. So again, we have been very budget wise as far as even when there is a vacancy. Prior to just posting that position internally, we actually vet it. Initially, we used to vet it through the board, and then the board really liked our process, and so they said executive committee. So anytime there's a vacancy, we actually vet it. We make sure, number one, do we need to refill it? Is it needed? Or are we going to refill it looking different? That's always an opportunity when you don't have a hot body in that position, that maybe you want to change that position so that it can be more reflective of what the needs are of the organization. As far as budget-wise, because of the number of openings, our payroll budget is looking mighty good. That's not good because that means the other people are having to do the work. But I do anticipate even this year we're going to come in under budget.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen some retirements, people that can retire. I think they're deciding I'm going to go. That they've reprioritized what's important in their lives, and they're saying working 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, I've done it. I'm done. So we've had some retirements, I think, that surprised us, you know, that they can do it. And so, good for them. I'm very happy. Probably a little green around the gills, but, you know.
We've had the largest number of retirements this year that I can recall, because I also keep those statistics as well. We tend to run a turnover rate around 5 to 6%, but with retirements this year, I'm running about 11. But if I take the retirements out, then I'm back to about that 6% as far as with turnover rate.
But compared to job turnover as a whole nationwide, I think the number of people that have changed jobs is like 30+%, or it's a big number.
Yeah, it is. It's huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. So again, that kind of tells you that we petitioned to be out of merit system. We are going to, and I'm not sure if you guys are looking at that as well, but we are kind of looking with Lyon County, maybe getting a different payroll or different HRIS system. MCCC actually did an RFP last year. Oh.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't need to say anything, Nancy.
It's a little spendy where they went to
Exactly.
with UKG, I think. But we've also looked at Paycom as well, too. So, and we know eventually we're going to have to get something. The other item I was just going to briefly talk about, and this kind of piggybacks with one of the reasons we did petition to get out of merit system. One of the items in our strategic plan is around strategies and implementing processes around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, from an HR standpoint, of course, I'm always trying to hopefully be able to hire staff that reflect the people that we serve or our communities. We had some really small wins right before, I always say before the pandemic or before COVID. We had done some community meetings with our Hispanic, Somalian, and Hmong culture, and actually had really talked to them about what it would look like working for Southwest Health and Human Services. And we had some really awesome conversations. You know, interesting enough, you start talking about food and everybody's at the table and everyone's having a good time. And actually the feedback that I received was, we never thought you would even consider us. And we're like, oh yes, we would. But then of course the pandemic happened and then things were kind of hands off. So we're trying to re-engage those meetings again in the hopes of being able to add that to, that may be also a labor pool that is untapped as well. Some other ways, some other diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies could be even apprenticeships. You know, maybe, again, with getting out of merit system, we can provide opportunities for people to maybe get the skills that they need to make to meet the minimum quals of a position. So there's those opportunities also. As far as other things that the agency does around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would say we have an active DEI committee where we are meeting regularly, and we're also now at the next point really taking a hard look at our policies and procedures, and not to throw out jargon, but applying an equity lens to that. We already do that. Those of you on my board know I talked about that. You know, I've been writing policies for a long time, and you can make them look, you know, really pretty and use big words and everything. But really, if you really apply an equity lens, we use the Hemingway app, which really just helps us simplify that language, have it at a reading level so that all can understand or, you know, comprehend what the intent of the policy is. But we are now even going to push that a little bit farther with some, I would say, some rhetorical questions, just saying, how does that policy and procedure adversely affect or benefit certain populations? And so that's even pushing us a bit farther with that. So it continues to be a top priority in our strategic plan from 2020 to 2024. And now also in 2022, all staff will be required to have some type of DEI, at least 2 DEI learnings around diversity, equity, and inclusion.
To Nancy's point too, with diversity, equity, inclusion, we took an all-encompassing universal look at what diversity, equity, inclusion means. As Nancy indicated, a lot of times we don't think about how we speak, how we write, and is it easily understandable by the folks that walk through our door. We know that there are folks that don't read at a 9th grade level. And so we want to ensure, whether that's on our website, whether that's on our social media, that we are trying to be cognizant of the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion means a lot. You know, again, how do we communicate to different age groups? How my dad gets information is way different than how my daughter gets it. And so we want to be cognizant, again, of, you know, age, culture, physical as well as mental capacities. And so again, we're looking at diversity, equity, inclusion very universally. One of the things that we have done is also we are taking a look at health equity. We know that there are food deserts throughout our 6 counties, and that's a big deal. That is an equity issue, is when you don't have access to a grocery store, or you're buying your groceries at at Casey's, because that's the only place that you have, because you don't have transportation, or it just is the very nature of maybe south of Marshall, there's nothing. So where do you get your food? You go to a gas station, those kind of things. So we're really talking about food inequities, we're talking about health inequities, we're talking across the board. And so I think when people hear diversity, equity, inclusion, sometimes they narrow that down to race and culture. But as an organization, we really want to be universal in how we look at that. So it's everything from physical and mental capacities to food inequities and all those kind of things. So we thought it was going to be a small project, but you know how that goes. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And probably as we talk about it, food inequities, then we talk about how do we ensure that we have got access to healthy foods for everyone. So again, it's a big project. We're enjoying it, and again, I think it'll continue to be on our radar for several years. So with that, we're at 10:06. So does anybody have any questions for us?
Yeah, for years we heard how poor the computer interface with the state was. How is that working out for you?
Sorry.
Well, I will say this, Luke, that's a really good question, because I think that SSIS, which is the Social Service Information System, the PRISM system, which is the child support system, and the MAXA system, which is the and MMIS, they were all supposed to sunset, I think, 5-6 years ago, and we were supposed to have new systems. I think they're using rubber bands and paper clips up there. I don't see anything coming down the pike.
They're still green screen.
Yeah, they're
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, SSIS, which is the Social Services Information System, was down last week. So that's the backbone of the work that we do in social services. And so staff is like, what do I do? I mean, and again, you can call the state, and they're not working, up there in Elmer Anderson or 444 Lafayette. So
Right. And it's not just your agencies that aren't working. Because I know I bet all the committees we sit on have state agencies that, they're all working from home yet. And I know in some cases, I had inquired about what they were getting accomplished while they were in the office, and in some cases it was near zero. And I'm guessing from home, it's even maybe below zero, because...
Well, we heard they're going to give up space. We heard they're going to give up the Lafayette or the Anderson building. We heard they're going to give that space up, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. I mean, they're not in the office. I mean, Luke, I saw you at the AMC conference. Jen Malcolm and Jody Harpstead, so Department of Health and Department of Human Services, Jody Harpstead was at a cabin somewhere, nice background, but they're not in the office. I mean, and in fact, I'm missing an audit right now for our Children's Mental Health Respite Grant, and it's being done virtually. They're not even coming in and looking in our files.
MCIT is still working from home, and I had to wait 2 days to get a call back because apparently they don't have phones at their house. So you leave them a message, and then somehow it eventually shows up on their computer, and then they called me back finally a couple days later. Same thing with, I had to get a hold of daycare assistants about a case situation, and the person that I needed to call said, if you need to call me back, don't call me back, just send me an email.
Yeah.
So how long do you think they can limp along like this? I mean,
Well, really, Luke, I'm going to say that these systems that are antiquated, I really thought we'd see something new, but I don't think there's money in the budget. I mean, I just don't think they're looking at infrastructure for technology. I mean, they're talking about modernization. You know that in all the meetings you go to. Modernization is the word, but I haven't seen it, and I've been a director for 21 plus years, and they keep saying it, but we're at green screens yet.
right.
I don't know.
Good question.
One last question then. Could you give us an update on where we're at with Sarah's replacement?
Yes, in fact, Nancy is leaving here to screen the applicants. She's going on vacation tomorrow, and so before Junk Brain takes over for her, and actually Junk Brain is a thing, so just so you know, it is a thing now, is due to the pandemic, it's called Junk Brain. It's just, everything that's floating around in your brain all the time, and you forget where you put your car keys or whatever. But before Nancy goes on vacation, she is going to, that closed last Friday, Dan. We did both an internal and an external recruitment. It's a big job with $35 million. It's a big job. We wanted to ensure we cast a wide net in order to see what we would get for our potential applicants. So Nancy and Jody will be doing that after this meeting, and we have scheduled the 21st of October for interviews.
And we also adjusted some of the expectations or the.
Yes, that was one of the jobs. She was a fiscal manager, and we did change it to be a director of business management with some additional duties going to that position. Again, that's an opportunity that you don't always get when you have someone leave those positions, but really to meet the needs of the organization, we are doing a thorough vetting of those positions.
And not necessarily germane to this discussion, but with Jason here as well too. COVID, could you share anything about that?
I'm not. With that, I don't know, Jason has probably
Jason's
got
on
some,
the spot.
I think I'm going to put Jason on the hot
Maybe he was
seat
prepared
there.
for this, maybe
He
not.
probably was prepared for that. I
COVID.
do know I get emails from Jason, so
Yep.
he's kind of my go-to person for the southern counties, so you might, I hate to put you on the spot.
comment right now?
Yeah.
Well, sure, absolutely. You can come to the microphone and
We'll let you have
we'll
it.
let you handle that.
You guys are vacating.
Yeah, we are vacating. It's warm for you.
Thank you for coming.
allowing us to come. It was
You
good
bet,
seeing
thank you.
all. Let's hope it's not 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's my jokes for the day.
Oh.
Got Beth and Nancy are tough
I gotta
acts
hear
to
the joke of the
follow.
day, though.
Tough acts to follow,
Oh, I
and
know.
it was a tough spot to be in, but I'm surprised they don't like to get cheated. They usually use the full 45 minutes that are allotted, but here they handed it over to me. They're so generous, so
There you
I
go.
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did expect, for this topic, my ordinance revision summary, I expected a standing room only.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and
I'm sure.
apparently the word just didn't get out. So.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you, Jason. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So COVID, where's COVID at in southwest Minnesota?
Just numbers itself, I realize that that's not necessarily
Yeah, and I don't. But we're seeing a increase. Yeah, we're one would think we're at our peak, almost maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's the curve I'm watching, it seems to have kind of flattened out and is not falling. Interestingly enough, in Pipestone, the numbers seem lower than that. And we're doing our IC meeting yesterday, and I was asking, so why Pipestone? Why is it lower? And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, most we can say is people just aren't getting tested. It's not that COVID's not here. They're just choosing not to screen out and not wanting to do that testing side of it, so then they're not showing up in the numbers.
I often wonder, because of the close proximity to Sioux Falls, if we're actually getting an accurate depiction of our true numbers here, or some of those are being reported in Minnehaha County instead.
And that very well could be. And one would think that reporting system to Minnesota Department of Health would be, people would be getting, they'd be, they're not. Yeah, it is, as in things that happen in clinics outside of Minnesota. It takes a while for that data to move over. I don't.
Because typically, aren't they reported at where they live?
And they're reported where they live, yeah.
Right.
But it's a matter of that information, like if you would go see someone in Sioux Falls, or see a doctor in Sioux Falls, that provider then has to report it to the Minnesota Department of Health, and
Is
you
that
know,
actually happening, or is it
yeah,
getting
does
lost
that,
in the
yeah,
shuffle?
does it happen in 5 business days? Does it happen in 1 business day? Does it happen in 10? Who knows? And
Does it happen at all?
or does it happen at all? Because, you know, you're talking a clinic provider, gee, they're worrying about basic care and not reporting.
Statistics.
Yeah, that all that is, it depends on who's collecting the information and passing it on. It may not be a big deal to them.
Right.
Whether they do it today or in 5 days or 10 days. The vaccine, even the vaccination reporting to in MIC, I think we're not seeing a lot of people who are choosing to get vaccinated in Sioux Falls, and that's not showing up on the MIC numbers, the Minnesota Immunization Registry, very quickly or at all. So we always, like Rock County in particular, always has a little lower percentage than some of the other counties, and yeah, the most I could say is, yeah, they're getting vaccinated in Sioux Falls and just not reporting, or, you know, again, frankly, you just hit your wall too. So, but schools are seeing an increased activity, in particular, like I think Murray County. It's interesting because I kind of handle Rock County, and they tried to do a mask mandate because their numbers were increasing, and it didn't go well, and so the school board decided to drop that. Murray County Central, however, they had a 3%, student body percentage of positives, and so they decided to implement their mask mandate, and it seems to, not be disputed all that much. Folda is seeing an increase in student body positives, and their board was a split on whether masks were needed or not. So, the bottom line is, yeah, masks are a pain. They are a useful tool to minimize spread, but yeah, the battle goes on. Yeah, so, and that's just kind of you're in a position there where, yeah, why fight, why argue anymore, because you got just two sides of the same coin. So, but yeah, hopefully, again, is it going to peak sometime soon? I hope so. Is it peaking yet? I don't know yet. But the numbers are every school, and again, I think we're all predicting this because you get people together, that's transmission opportunity for COVID. So, just at our east side, the school nurse from one of the schools had a case one, or their first case was a teacher, and they tracked it back to four kids in the front row of that classroom ended up positive for COVID. And so I mean, there you go. Again, they were the ones most at risk because of the teacher talking, and so that's just anecdotal, but that's why we talk, or again, that's our message has not really changed too much over the last year and a half, 2 years sort of thing. So I am thankful that I don't have to bug restaurant managers to wear masks. So that was getting awfully old. So yeah, or capacity issues, that was getting, I struggled with that a lot. So, but I hope we don't have to go back to it, and but there you go. So I don't know if that answered anyone's questions, but yeah, the message is it's still there. So
Okay, so we're going to move on to this public health ordinance amendments.
yes, this is a housekeeping measure, and that's why I didn't expect too many people here. In 2019, this is what really kind of moved this is 2019, the food code was updated. The state updated their food code, and in that food code there was some language that didn't jive with our ordinance. They changed some of the numbers, and there's a portion of the Minnesota food code that we don't enforce. As in my delegated program, it has to do with the certified food manager, the certified food manager application process. Our agency, Department of Health does that. So I had to put together ordinances, or basically update our ordinances to include that those updated food code reference numbers and also the portions that we do not enforce. And so I started with Redwood County, and it was at the end of 2019, they were codifying. And so I updated them, handed them over to Redwood County to review, to go through their codification process. And they picked up a few issues in all the other ordinances that were citations that had been repealed or citations that needed correcting. And then, and again, part of this process too is I submit our ordinances whenever we do change them to MDH for review, and they picked up a few other things that we needed to include. So it was kind of all of the rotten eggs in one basket time to review this ordinance and submit it to you with these revisions. And I can go over these revisions just in briefly, so that you see that, again, it's simply a housekeeping measure. There's not really, again, we enforce the food code, the lodging code, the mobile home park campground codes, the swimming pool codes, per the state requirements. No more, but no less. So that's what these revisions will certainly reflect. But in Pipestone County, and as in all of our counties, we have our public health ordinances are composed of 6 ordinances. One is the administrative ordinance that handles the housekeeping and enforcement. And then the food and beverage ordinance, the lodging ordinance, the mobile home park campground ordinance, swimming pool ordinance, which revolves not with private pools, but with public swimming pools, which, again, we have a handful in Pipestone. And then the last thing is youth camps, and that's just Murray County is the only county that I have youth camps on, but it just fits into the package. So I guess whether you choose to add that one to the list or delete it is up to you. As I was driving here, I was thinking, if you guys ask me, do you think a youth camp will show up in Pipestone? And that's kind of a question, is will the sun rise or set? Sure, at some point maybe. I hope it never stops rising and setting, but I don't know if a youth camp will ever show up in Pipestone, but there you go. So so that's just something.
What is the definition of it? Is it just a class, or does it have to be an overnight? That's the thing, is it certainly could, again, there's a different variety of youth camps. Most of them are up in, basically around a lake, but there are some that are horse camps that are youth camps. Again, it's kind of, you never know what's going to show up, and I'm required to enforce and inspect those. And if we don't include it, and if one shows up, then all of a sudden I'm back at your board saying, oh, by the way, here we are again. So, yeah. So, I don't know.
I know there are a few camping deals for the youth at the Island Park. I know 4-H has them.
Yep.
And a few others.
So and that's the thing, is you got even those temporary type deals that fit into the...
It's a week-long program or something like that, and is it a camp or not a camp?
Yeah. So to begin with the administrative ordinance, there's kind of 2 corrections. We referenced 145A05, and when they codified it at Redwood, they changed it to, so you'll see the dash. I crossed out the 5 and put a 7, and crossed out the 5 and put a 3, because they relate to specific things with our authority that the local public health authority is given in 145A. So that's the change, and again, that was kind of picked up when Redwood codified. And the same thing goes with the definitions. I had cited 10, or when this was passed back in 2010, I had cited 10, and since then 10 has been 145A.10 was repealed, and so the definition sits in 02. So it basically, we just removed it and just cited the general statute 145A. And then the variance section, actually with this one, there was an error. I think it's listed as subpart 1J in the variances, and J has to deal with drinking water or something like that. It should have said H. So that was just, again, a housekeeping update, because H refers to swimming pools, as in we don't issue variances for public swimming pools. That's the authority of the Department of Health. So, and that's those changes, 3 changes, or basically 4 changes in the administrative ordinance that just need to be corrected. So, again, housekeeping measures. The food and beverage ordinance, that one's, again, you'll see those same citations that are going to be corrected. And then also I added in section 5, the adoption of the food and beverage standards, the verbiage for the 2019 food code. And on there, it lists the food code in general, the numbers 4626, but then it also says there's a section in there relating to certified food manager that we do not, and that's the responsibility of the Department of Health. That's an important key when MDH reviews our program. Part of their review is they review the ordinances. They want to see that there. This was submitted to them. They agreed that the language was appropriate. So, yeah. And the good thing is, hopefully, again, 2019 was a major food code revision, but from here on out, if they do change the food code or kind of do minor tweaks to it, it won't have any major language tweaks that we would need to review the ordinance or revisit this again. Hopefully, the way I've written it is it'll be covered and we don't have to do any revision for a number of years. You know, I can't say definitely within 10 years, but, you know, again, hopefully open-ended, you don't have to review it. So that's my hope, and my word is my bond until it's not. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to revisit that again. So the lodging ordinance, this is the one when Lyon County was added, Lyon and Redwood. We did tweak some language regarding the definition of what a lodging facility is, and this ordinance includes those changes we made at that time. So again, it went from lodging establishment to lodging facility, and again, you'll see there's just a tweak in the definition of what a lodging facility is.
Question, sir. Does that include VRBs and things like that?
That would include VRBs, and that's one of my goals for the coming year is to start finding those places if they're operating
in Pipestone County.
Pipestone County. So we see those, again, the northern parts of the state have seen those more so because of the lake country. We do see a few advertising. I think I had, a few years back, I had one advertising in Lake Benton, and I had to reach out to them about licensing, and then they decided not to do anything. But
what are they?
It's a vacation rentals houses. So when someone has a property and they rent it out on a weekly basis to families, to people for vacation rentals, they're required to be licensed. They would meet the lodging facility.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so we would have to license and do an inspection on them. You know, again, you typically find those on how they advertise, whether it's through Facebook or, again, you got these online
travel sites
that do the same thing. And yeah, again, they would have to be licensed. And again, you see a few pop up, but that was one of the things I was going to work on in the 2022 here, trying to see if there's any operating in our area and reaching out to them, the owners, and introducing the licensing aspect to them. So.
Is there a fee for that license then?
Yeah, there would be. There's a base fee of $165 and then a per room fee of $4. So there would be some type of minimal fee depending on how large the facility is.
So it wouldn't stop anyone from doing it.
I don't think so. Yeah, it certainly would be a darn. There goes a little bit of the profit, but
right.
But then it also brings into the other thing, whereas if they have a private well, they would be required to have that tested yearly and ensuring that it's safe. Septic system would be another thing, and making sure that that's adequate. We do charge for private septic and private well. There's a fee for that. If it's a public water supply, rural water, if it's a municipal septic system, there's no fee for that. So,
okay.
Yeah, those are it would be additional things that would be considered depending on the location of where these rental vacation places are.
And those are an annual fee.
There would be an annual fee, so, depending on, and again, that's the funny thing, is if they would do it once, a fee would be required. My guess is those that are consistently advertised would be the ones we'd find. So the ones that are just doing it once is more of a, kind of a, between you and me type of arrangement, so. Section 1 in the lodging code purpose, I added chapter, actually, 327 reference. We needed that reference. That was found when the State Department of Health reviewed our ordinances. And then the lodging rule and statute, again, lodging code reference update. That was, I tried to stick with just the first 4 digits, because then if the ones that follow the, from .001 to, 400.400, if the lodging code ever is amended and those secondary digits are wrong, then we'd have to revisit it. So I tried to keep it as general as possible. So you stick with the main 4 digits of the lodging code. So there is a planned revision. The state's planning a revision of the lodging code. I don't know when that'll be done. COVID kind of really caused a lot of delays in that. So, and that's frankly, the COVID caused a delay in coming to you with this, because I had to get them to approve my revisions, and it took a while for them to do that, so.
They're all working from home.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the strangest deal. Yeah, so, I never stopped going to work through this whole process, but, Department of Education is just like that too, so, but. The mobile home park campground, again, that actually ordinances, there's not really any changes except those citation issues that we identified in the codification process.
That one actually, at the end, I think you missed having the date change. I mean, this must have last been revised, all of these in July of 2012.
That's correct, yeah.
And on the manufactured home park and camping one, it does not have that mentioned.
Oh, so I need to look at that, so.
Right,
Yeah.
and then also on the signature, the name for the county administrator wasn't struck out as it was in all the others.
And we'd have to change that, so
Right.
Steve, if you see those things, but I'll look at that and make sure
But that was the only thing that wasn't the same for all of them.
I wasn't too sure on how you guys wanted to format on that, but.
But just leaving it blank with no name seems to be a good way, because that way, if that person changes, it's just whoever has the position signed.
We hope it doesn't change.
That's right.
Right.
Someday.
And the swimming pool, let's see, the main thing there, pool code citation. So the funny thing is with the pool code is it also includes wastewater and drinking water issues. So that's the one where I had to actually list the applicable parts that we deal with. So that one does have the digits. I think it's 4717, and it goes to like 0750. I guess I can look at it here. And that one I did have to, I couldn't just keep the first 4 digits, because that code deals with other things too. Yeah, 4717, and it goes to 0150 to 3970. 5 deals with variances, and that's handled in the administrative ordinance, and that would be Department of Health responsibility. Again, with the youth camp ordinance, again, that was a statute reference update to include all the components that deal with youth camps, and there was a 144 citation that needed to be added to that. Otherwise, it was just housekeeping issues as well. So it's been a while since we've done this process, and I know this was just an introductory meeting, as in these are the proposals that I'm requesting. And then the next step is, yeah, we need to do a public hearing or schedule a public hearing. And in that, when that is scheduled or before that is scheduled, I'll notify my applicable establishments of these updates to inform them, again, of the routine measures that are taking place because of, it's just, again, the housekeeping measures for this ordinance.
When you're gonna get your crowd?
Well, hopefully, yeah. So we did Redwood again back in 2020, and yeah, there was a few people that did show up. So yeah, and but it was pretty straightforward. So hopefully, I will pass the word around and give them this is what's being changed, and we ease their concerns or yeah. So
how far out do we have to go to set the public hearing date?
Advertised for, I presume, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah, I think it is, and you have to put it in
Our
yeah.
local paper,
Yeah,
official paper of the
official
county.
paper, and again, it can be part of the other ones have always been part of the board meeting, where you open up the public hearing as part of your board meeting.
Right.
So, and I'd have to, again, I know, yeah, you post it in your official paper 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks prior, so.
So are you thinking this year yet?
Yeah, I would.
Tell me how much time do you need to do your revisions and all of that? I mean, obviously, we're not the only county you're dealing with, are we?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is, you're my first, I got Murray County next week. Rock County is codifying, so theirs will be a little bit longer process. So it's at your convenience. I was hoping I would wrap things up for the most part, and again, if we're able by the end of the year. So if we pick a November date.
9th,
What's that?
November 9th?
9th or 23rd?
I mean, and again, either.
Let's go with the 23rd, that gives me a little more
23rd.
time.
Yeah, that would be better for me, so.
Same day as our hospital board though, too.
Right.
And if that public hearing can drag out.
I wouldn't think it would.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like you're making a significant change, it's mostly just
It's just
statute
housekeeping.
changes and.
as in, the bottom line with these ordinances is, it's the minimum requirements that the state requires. As in, what I've been doing since 2010 here, or 2012, it'll be the same. It's the.
All right, it's not being more stringent
Yeah,
or
we're not
looser
introducing,
than.
we're not introducing, like, if it had COVID elements in here, yeah, that would be not good. Yeah, this is the minimum requirements as it relates to what I've been doing. So, so yeah, that's the Redwood one. It was pretty straightforward. And I will, do my darndest to share that with all of the places I license to make, ensure that they understand that this is all a formality, so. But yeah, given your concerns, I agree. I don't take that lightly either, and that'll be my message when I inform our
What, like
places.
9:30 on the 23rd work, or?
That should be fine, 9:30 or 10 o'clock, either one, so.
I'm just thinking if, a lot of times we'll set road or bridge ones at 10, just have a little leeway.
Bid openings are usually at 10:30 for Nick for doing those, so 9:30 is fine.
Okay.
Recommend November 23rd, 9:30 a.m. for the public hearing for public health changes in their ordinance.
And I'll move that recommendation then for the 23rd at 9:30.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then,
Do you have a format or anything for the public hearing you use, or just
I'll
make something up?
Yeah, no, I'll take a look at, see what I've done previously.
Okay.
And, again, it'll be fairly similar to what we're doing here, introduce the proposed revisions and explain the reasons for those revisions. So, and.
Yeah, if you can grab one of your templates from another county, that would work just fine, I'm sure.
Yep, so, and I'll get that to you for the the board, to share with the board, as well as just a general agenda that I've used in the past.
We'll be publishing that the week of November 8th and 15th. That would give me 2 weeks before the meeting.
15th.
Yep.
November.
Yes.
Right.
I'll look at that. And then, yeah, any further questions on these?
I don't think so. Does anyone else? No? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Jason.
Appreciate it.
Bill? Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm seeking approval this morning to send this letter to the .gov domain register and register.gov for Pipestone County. And this is a new domain, and we had practiced about 2 years ago moving to a new domain. So here we go again. This is going to be mandatory. This will happen in the next session, and they want these in place before the elections, the next elections. I'm not completely sold on the security of this, but if it makes the public feel warm and fuzzy about trusting the website they're on and the email address, I guess that's the direction where we have to move.
So they're forcing everyone to move to a site that's questionably protected, or?
No, I'd say it's protected better than what we have, but anything can be spoofed. These are much, I don't know what the best way to say it is. They're vetted better, than, not anybody can just buy a .gov.
Right.
But that's where we are. We're going to.
Unless you're a big enough lobbyist.
I don't think a lobbyist could get one,
No.
but.
Okay, well.
But state-sponsored nefarious programs won't have trouble, making up things.
Sure.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, well, you've heard the request. Steve?
Question, is this all counties, cities, any governmental agency, so it would be the city Pipestone would be doing the same thing?
Yes,
Everybody, Edgerton, whatever, anybody's got a website?
Organization.
Even down to townships and,
If they wanted to, right. Right now, there's no cost. In the past, it has been $150 a year, and that's been kind of like, well, geez, let's just go to GoDaddy and get one for, we can pay $500 and have it for 10 years.
right,
But
but free is better, I guess.
free is better for right now. I don't see it staying free. I just see this is how you entice people into it.
I'll move for approval.
I will second.
Okay, any discussion? Doesn't sound like we have a choice.
Hands are tied.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's recess for a bit.
So this will take care of our PCMN.us now, right?
We'll keep that.
Oh, we'll still keep it?
Yeah, we'll have
And our co.pipestone.mn.
to keep that.
Okay.
We'll still be able to find us then.
Pulled up for my Safe Roads Coalition.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, can reconvene and we'll speak with Jeremy. Morning.
Morning, how are you guys doing today?
Very good.
Morning.
So I submitted an application for abatement on 2 lots. I don't know if you have that certificate of survey. To kind of give you a story on what happened was, if you go to that survey, Tract 1 is owned by one of our investors in the Pipestone Development Company. Then track 2 was an empty lot, that the house burnt down in 2002. And so it's been an empty lot for, well, almost 20 years now. So our thought was, we actually had two of our investors in the Pipestone Development Company. One built a new house west of town, and he's got a house that he was going to tear down. We decided we could reutilize that house, move it to Pipestone, and put that back into use. Then we have another investor that bought an acreage over by Flandreau, and that has a house on it too. Both of them have been lived in the last 3 or 4 months, so they're all livable. But we would like to move them to town and put them on lots. So what we did is we took 2 lots and made 3 lots out of them. The variance has been done, so that's been approved, and the survey's been done. So from that standpoint, we're ready to go. The houses are bought, and we're going to move them probably in November. So that's kind of the story of those lots.
Jeremy, how old are the structures, and are they 2-story or ranch?
They're both ranches. They're both 800-900 square feet. Right now, the one is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. The other one's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. When we move them to town, we're going to put full basements under them. So the one will be a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. The other one will probably be a 5-bedroom, 2-bath. So there'll be, there won't be huge houses, but a lot of those houses from that era, that 50, 60 years, that's what they are. They're smaller houses, but you just, if you got a good basement, you can make the accommodations for rooms. And so, and they'll fit that, because that 5th Street area is probably from that 50s and 60s era, so they will fit in there. They'll look like they were originally there, so. So I guess that's kind of the gist. You have 2 plans. So this first one here would be 818. So this is the house that's west of Pipestone. And the thing with that house is, so he built a shoust, and that's on a farm site. So there's actually 2 houses on that acreage now. He built a shoust. He was going to tear the house down. So from the county standpoint, when that house disappeared, it would have went off your tax rolls anyways. So we're salvaging and moving it to a new property that pays, I think that lot paid $98 a year in tax. I don't know what the tax rolls of this will be, but I'm sure it'll be $500-600, maybe $1,000. It'll have a new basement. It'll have a new garage. It'll be, we'll I know just moving the house is $15,000. You put a basement under it for $20,000. We're going to have $70,000-80,000 in it, so it's going to be. And hopefully we get a new family to move to town with some kids, so that's good for the community too. So then the other house, and this is all I have. I don't have a full packet with dimensions, but it's basically the same house. It's on a bigger lot. This house actually had a couple additions added to it over by Finder. We're going to take the additions off, move it to town, make it a little more universal, a little more usable. But it's basically the same thing. It'll just be, like I said, this one will be a 3-bedroom main floor, 1-bath main floor, then 2 bedrooms and a bathroom in the basement. So, and this one here, so this lot didn't exist before, so whatever we got out of this is definitely improvement. So. Don't know if you guys have any questions or comments. I know it's kind of a little different deal. It's not really a new structure, but going off the initiative, the second part of the initiative that you guys have is to encourage replacement of dilapidated housing structures, and that's what I consider this is. Since that house burnt down in 2002 and there's been nothing on there, I consider that a dilapidated lot, so we're improving that. And the other one's a new lot, so.
Steve, if I'm not mistaken, if this was a stick-built house somewhere else that got moved in as a new structure, a manufactured home, that would comply with what our original tax abatement program was. So the only real difference here is that the basic structure they're moving in happens to be a used structure. It's a 50-year-old structure, but it's going to be heavily remodeled. So I don't see a lot of difference between this and moving in a newly built structure.
Well, there is, because when it comes down to
value,
we're moving a parcel that was already taxed to another parcel, so it's not new to the county. If you remember our history, board was tasked with taking that under advisement from a gentleman, I believe his name was Messman, from Edgerton. They were moving a house from a different part of Edgerton to a new lot over by the Water Tower District. And that was denied because they moved the structure. Granted, Jeremy's telling us they will increase the value of it, but when they were going to move that one, I presume they were going to do some remodeling in that too. They had to build a new foundation, everything with that too. And the county did deny that because you already had existing value on that house that was being taxed. And that's why Chris is here too. I think she attests to that as well, that We have, and if, even looking at what Jeremy's saying, encourage replacement of dilapidated housing units, we're talking that it specifically says replacement, not moving them and remodeling them. And it does state in the first paragraph, construction of new single-family housing units. So if we were to authorize this, I would anticipate getting into an issue with what we did in Edgerton when we denied it. So I don't think we can go both sides of this, in my
Thank you for
opinion.
that.
If we need to
That
get a
makes
legal
good
opinion
sense.
from the county attorney, we will do so. But it's nothing against Jeremy at all. It's just the way that this is written, when you're moving structures that have value, it does have value.
Yeah.
So it's,
Well, and whenever you deviate from existing policy, you have to always look at those unintended consequences. So thank you for that insight. Jeremy mentioned this one's coming from South Dakota, so it's not on the existing.
that's not an issue. That one's fine.
Yeah.
It's the one that's coming from the Weinkauf
Right.
property, just to
Property.
the west of town, because that is an existing structure.
Which is
being-
already being taxed where it's
Already being
at.
taxed. I think, I don't know
But
what the
that tax
value.
value, there's two houses and a farm site on that lot. So I actually like to know what you actually tax that specific house at, if you can tell me what that is, 'cause I'm sure you can.
Yeah, the value on that house that you're moving was $49,800.
That specific house.
Mhm.
Is that the whole tax for that whole value, or just that house? Okay.
You could.
Yeah. Would you like to join us up here so that we can hear you better?
And so can I ask, when you guys value that house, because the house that's on 820, which is actually a bigger house, has a tax value of $27,200, sitting in the city of Pipestone, and it's a bigger house. So can I ask how you came up with that 49,000, which seems high to me for that house. It's not a very big house.
It's a small house, you're correct.
And it does not have an attached garage. So that house itself is a garageless house. We're gonna put a garage on it.
I don't have that information with me, Jeremy.
Okay.
I can get that for you.
Okay.
We base it, basically on the square footage, any improvements, updates, what have you.
Mhm.
Is it possible that that home would be older and in worse shape, I'm assuming, than the one that he's mentioning?
The one out in Weinkauf that he's moving?
No, the one that's in
820?
town.
No, they're same age. I would say 820 and 818 are probably newer than Weinkauf's house. And the house 816, which is the other house beside it, has a tax value of 21.7. And that house is also bigger than Weinkauf's house. So I have to question that $49,000 assessment on that house.
But there's other factors, there's neighborhood factors, other factors that affect those values.
Mhm.
So off the top of my head, it's hard to say why there's such a difference in those values.
Beyond the scope of what we do, so I'm.
Right.
And to the board right now, today, we're not taking any action on this. We need to schedule a public hearing to bring Jeremy back to actually act on it. So we're getting the values together so we can actually come up with the abatement of what it would be. As remember when with Tyler, was when we do it, he would do a preliminary one, you'd approve
Right.
the date for the public hearing, then you get the information on it, and then we'd move forward on that. So right now, this is preliminary at this point, so you can hear what Jeremy's planning on doing. Just as a developer, he wanted to spend time with the board and let you know what his project.
And you could
his
maybe
plans
ask
were.
questions of the assessor's office prior to that and get whatever
A
information.
chance to get your documents put together.
So really, all we're doing today is setting a time
Mhm.
for the,
That would set a date for the public hearing, so I have to advertise for 2 consecutive weeks.
right, so the soonest we could do that would be the 9th? November?
Yep, that would be the 9th. We can set November 9th at 10 a.m. or 9:30 a.m., whatever works for that.
We already had that one at 9:30 for the
That's on the
ordinances.
23rd.
Oh, that was the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can do the 9th at 9:30 for the public hearing for the request for
Okay,
home initiatives.
Because right now, time's of the essence for you too with.
Yeah, it is the middle of October.
right.
The one season we're